Hey everybody, it's Brayden from Uncharted Horizons, and on behalf of Nicole and myself, we want to thank you guys for checking out the show. It'll be starting shortly, but I just wanted to let you know where you can keep up with us if you're interested. We're live every Thursday on Twitch at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Uncharted Horizons PC. The YouTube channel for the show officially exists now under the same name, at Uncharted Horizons PC on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at UNCH Podcast, and you can find my personal Twitter account at LoveshackYT, and Nicole's personal account at Ellison_712 on Twitter as well. We do post things from the show there, and would love to interact with you guys, so feel free to check us out. As always, new episodes are posted on all places you get your podcasts, about 24 to 48 hours at most after the show airs live, and we'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and let's get into the show. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 41 of Uncharted Horizons, and thanks so much to everybody for popping in. We are actually joined by a special guest tonight, Dustin, if you recall.
This is Nicole.
Well, you are Nicole because I don't have a graphic with your name. You're filling in for Nicole, but Dustin joined us to discuss Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil games in general a couple months back. And that was a very well-received episode, and with Nicole out of town on international business for a couple weeks, we're going to have a couple of different guest hosts over the next couple weeks, and wanted to really think about a fun topic. So tonight we're going to talk about bad video game takes, whether good, whether overrated, underrated, kind of all-encompassing. We're just going to let it roll and see where we end up. Initially we had kind of put it out as overrated, underrated, and then Dustin had the idea to maybe make it a little bit less restrictive because there's a lot of different ways that things could go. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We are live on YouTube and Twitch now, and of course the show will be uploaded on all podcast streaming platforms after it is over. Dustin, what's going on? How have you been since the last time we've heard from you?
Terrible. Awful.
That's unfortunate.
Yep.
Well,
thanks for asking.
Thanks for the boost of positivity there. But certainly, certainly I relate to that a little bit more than I'd like to admit on some levels. But I'm happy we're here now. I've got some interesting takes, and I'm sure you've got some too that we're going to dive into. Before we get into that, I just want to acknowledge a couple people in the comments. Isaac, thanks for checking in and said he's kind of sick, but he won't be very active tonight. But and then May said, hi, how's it going? Long time no see. I feel like you haven't popped in on one of the streams lately. Hopefully we get to chat with you soon. And Glowkage said, Nelson has a sweet beard. Not Nelson, goodness gracious. Nicole has a sweet beard this week. Yeah, she, traveling in France, it's hard. Actually, I don't think she's okay with me telling this story. Nicole actually is traveling overseas for work, and she got there this morning, and they actually lost her bag on Delta. So it is her bag is stuck somewhere in Paris, and she's just stuck in another part of Europe, just with nothing that she came with, essentially. And they said 4 to 5 days possibly until the bag could be retrieved, which is just a nightmare scenario. I've never traveled internationally, but I could imagine that is not a good spot to be in. Yeah,
that's classic France.
Basically, yeah. I mean, there's a reason that they're considered cowards. They can't even bring your bags to you. Well, hopefully she gets them soon. I definitely feel like that would be a terrible situation. My biggest fear traveling abroad would be being kidnapped, but my second biggest fear would definitely be losing all my stuff and just kind of being stranded there with no way to buy anything or get anything. I don't even know what the French currency is, so
I think it's euros.
Is it euros? I don't know.
It used to be francs, but I don't think it is anymore.
I just kind of assume they paid with baguettes, and it's just sort of what happens. The national currency everyone uses. A quick note, actually, Final Fantasy 16 came out, and that's a game that we've talked about on the show a little bit. I know you've been playing it a bit. Any thoughts on that, just generally speaking, about a week in to playing it?
Yeah, it's really, really good. The combat's super fun and kind of free-flowing. Kind of God of War-esque, not the new God of War, the old God of War.
Okay.
The story it's good. It's not blowing my mind, but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not super far into it, though, probably about 10 hours, so I haven't even seen a lot of what it has to offer, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's good to hear. I've never actually played a Final Fantasy game, but I have watched my roommate Ben, who's been on the show before as well, play a little bit of it, and graphically it looks gorgeous, but it looks fun. And I thought it was turn based. We talked about this on the show last week a little when it first came out. Before I looked into anything about it, I thought it was turn based. I know some of the older Final Fantasy games were.
Final Fantasy hasn't really been turn based since 13, if you want to count that.
So was that 3 games ago?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess it's kind
even then, it's kind of. I mean, it's kind of turn based, kind of not. It's kind of somewhere in between.
Yeah, I know people like it. It just for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of that style, but no, the game looks really cool and the combat looks fun, and I am like pleasantly surprised by that because I do want to play it eventually, but I also want to play the remake of 7. And so so many games.
I like this better than the remake of 7.
Yeah.
Far.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the combat's better.
All right. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know too much about it other than just kind of like what I've watched, but yeah, anything else you've been playing? Anything else came out you wanted to mention in the opening here before we just kind of dive
Not
into
really.
the
I've been playing a little Dead by Daylight.
Yeah.
The anniversary's going on, but yeah, other than that, Yakuza 4 every now and then, but mostly Final Fantasy.
Well, the new one's coming out soon too. That's right. I actually have one of that in my video game draft we did on the show. The was it like Man Who Forgot His Name, which I think is the one that Kiryu actually comes back in. That's supposed to come out this year, right? In like August or November or something?
I think it's late this year, but I'm not positive on that date.
I don't know. That was one I had picked, and then Silk Song, and of course Silk Song, we don't know when that's coming out, so hopefully at some point.
Game's never come. The game doesn't exist.
I can't believe that it's been that, like, it just feels like it's been in development for a long time, and I don't know what I think.
I want to say it was announced pre-20. It was supposed to come out in 2020, I think.
Was it that long ago, really?
I think so. I'm looking it up now, but
damn,
I believe it was supposed to come out in 2020. It was announced in February 2019.
Okay. Jeez, that's 4 years. And when did the original Hollow Knight come out? Like 2017? It wasn't that like.
Yeah, I think it was 2017. The first game. Man,
they must be going ham on this then if it's going to be that.
I mean, it's a small team, but it's just. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not convinced it exists. So hopefully soon.
It's a hot bit. Well, hopefully it does come out. So let's get into it then. Some the worst video game takes. I have some here that some are mine. Some are things I found on Reddit. I peruse the internet, kind of looking around. You ask people to share their hottest take, and everyone's kind of chomping at the bit that like someone's gonna agree with them on on their spicy negative opinions. So let's just dive in. One of the ones I just wanted to like mention off the bat, and just to clarify, this personally not my take, but this guy on Reddit, this is from a couple months ago, says, Last of Us is one of the most overrated games I've ever played. Good story, but insanely boring level design. And the best part of the game is the story, but everything else I would genuinely not touch the third game even if someone paid me to. It's just overwhelming cutscenes and just basically mid gameplay. Where do you fall on that?
So I don't 100% disagree with what he's saying. The game is primarily known for its cutscenes.
Yeah.
And the gameplay isn't anything that special. Mm-hmm. It's Uncharted, but with less like mobility up and down.
Yeah.
But that's not to say it's bad. I don't look at The Last of Us and go, oh, this is horrible. Gameplay wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I've seen a couple other people say this too, but yeah, I don't think it's the most egregious take.
Okay. I definitely think the gameplay is not the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I also think, I don't know, it feels like it's kind of doing it a little bit of a disservice to say that it's like, I don't know, I feel like the game is just like so influential and such a fun kind of experience as a whole that it's just weird to think to kind of say it's overrated. I don't know that I would really agree with that or even go in that direction.
I'm not saying that's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, if you're not someone who's into story-based games or games that are primarily movies,
yeah,
and I am doing a little bit of a disservice by saying that, you're not gonna like The Last of Us. You're just not.
Well, I guess that's fair. Yeah, I guess if you're playing it with the intent, yeah, no, I guess that's kind of a fair point.
Because
I don't
even
know.
The
I
Last
guess
of Us 2, who a lot of people didn't like the story as much, the gameplay is way better in The Last of Us 2.
yes, absolutely. I think The Last of Us 2 in terms of gameplay and sort of what you're doing in the game, like I'm not just talking about like combat. I'm saying in terms of like actual the breaks between cutscenes and doing and going back and forth doing things. I think 2 is just better in that regard, but I also think it 1 is just like it's peak cinema and it
Yeah,
puts
it's
you in the
peak
hands of
cinema. That's the key word you just said. It's peak cinema.
yeah. Well, yes, but the difference between a movie and The Last of Us is that you're actually walking around playing as these characters. You spend an exceptional amount of time with them, so you sort of feel like you're in that. You feel more connected to the role and to the characters because you're playing through this story versus just watching it if it was like a 2 hour thing on screen, I guess is what I was saying there.
Pretty sure there's more than 2 hours of cutscenes in that game, but
I don't even know. I mean, what was the HBO show? Six episodes was it, or was it
I think it
eight
was
maybe?
8.
So it
Maybe
was
it was
like
8.
basically like almost
I say
6
8
hours of
hours.
content, 6 to 8 hours of content, basically. I think there's probably more in the actual game. Obviously, there's things that they didn't include or things they didn't, put in there. But yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like it's definitely a strong take. But I guess yeah, I mean, as you kind of brought me around the circle, um, a bit. So
I mean, realistically, how many gameplay sections can you name where you're like, wow, that was great in The Last of Us? I can name
um,
one.
the scene in the forest where you're fighting against the whistling guys that shoot the arrow.
That's 2.
Oh yeah. Uh, um. Oh. I mean the clicker stuff and the part where where Bill is like in the house.
The clicker stuff, that's the whole fucking
No,
game.
like the underground stuff with the subway when there's clickers around and you have to go through the subway train. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like towards the beginning, like
Yeah,
kind
it's
of closer to the beginning.
relatively earlier on. Yeah, you're underground and you go down there with the clicker stuff. And then there's also the sniping, the thing where
Yeah,
you.
thanks, Ben.
Oh, he did say that. And the comment
He
Scrooge
did,
said,
yeah.
"Whoa, Nicole looks way different." The sniper
The
part.
the
Yeah,
one I can think of is towards the end of the game in the snowstorm. That part's really good.
snowstorm part is. Wait. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's good too. And then you have the whole. I mean, the diner scene's not bad either.
Yeah, that's the main
Ironically
part
enough,
essentially.
Ben just said that. I love the boss part with the creepy cannibal guy. David, I think his name is.
Yeah,
Um,
but
yeah,
that's
that's
essentially the same part I just said. It's
yeah.
the snowstorm.
It does come out well. No, that's a fair point. All right. So maybe you've talked me around a little bit, but I mean, the story of the game alone, in my opinion, is enough to make it like just iconic for what it is and absolutely worth playing. I mean, if an alien came to Earth and wanted to play a video game that was going to, determine whether or not they destroyed the planet or let it live, that would be one of the games I would put up there for, consideration to play. Would be The Last of Us. So
Yeah, it's really good, and that's. I mean, what you said wasn't my take. I was just defending it to
yeah,
the point where you could argue this,
no, that's a fair point.
and
All
it's
right,
not that horrible a take. I think.
all right. What do you got? Hit me with
All
something?
right, so I'm gonna start with one that's hotly contested, um, and I fall on one side of it. But I mean, regardless of the opinion you have on it, people are gonna hate it. And it's that Dark Souls should not have a difficulty option.
This is a brilliant one because this has obviously been something Nicole has been very outspoken on the show prior. We talked a lot about Elden Ring. So tell me where you stand. I'm sorry. Tell me your reasoning behind that. I think we've kind of argued this back and forth on the show before, but you might have a bit of a different perspective on it. So I'm interested to hear just kind of like your reasoning. Why do you
So
think it
there's
should?
two reasons, and one is personal, and one is kind of just more broad. The personal reason is I think it's really satisfying to work your way through that tough difficulty and learn the game as opposed to just being handed to you. But the better reason that I think is that the developer wanted it that way rather. So if they don't want to put that difficulty option in the game, why should we force them to?
Inclusivity, perhaps? And I'm not saying that I agree with that. I've been very outspoken about it. Not, but I mean the idea of allowing more people the opportunity to play the game, like adaptability for people that maybe...
But okay, but video games are supposed to be like an art form, right?
Yes.
Do movies have to be inclusive?
But, I mean, sometimes it feels that way, but no, generally they do not. There's a story to tell, and it doesn't have to be there for everyone. But I would think people might counter that you have you're not actually playing a movie, right? So, like, if I'm an individual and I have maybe a disability or a curve that doesn't allow me to get somewhere that I need to for whatever it is I'm trying to do, maybe an adaptable thing where it's, like, maybe less difficult. Maybe I can't... I'm not making any jokes at all, being completely dead serious here. Maybe I'm someone who has, like, hand issues, or, like, I have motor skills, or my hands are shaky, and I can't necessarily be as responsive as I want to be with the controls. So maybe, So
what, should we make it a strategy game?
No, but maybe...
So they can respond to it faster?
No, but maybe an easier difficulty would allow them to not die in one hit. Or, like, an adaptability mode that, like, keeps the game more or less the same. But, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I think that's the common point that people might make. To say, okay, well, if there's a mode to basically handicap it so you take less damage, if you're someone who struggles to, like, reaction time or motor skills to, like, be able to adapt to that a bit better. Like,
okay, but that's not how the developer wants it. So
no.
Why are we forcing them to change their game in a way that they don't want their game to be?
I mean, honestly, I can't argue that because I agree with you.
So I think the difficulty option's fine if Miyazaki comes out and says, you know what, the next Dark Souls game is going to have a difficulty option because we want more people to be able to play it. Fine, that's the way he wants it. But until he comes out and says that, why are we going to try to force it down his throat?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you. And this is someone who, I like those games, but I'm not very good at them. I liked Elden Ring's accessibility. I felt like Elden Ring was very user-friendly, like to a new player coming into the Souls games franchise. The game allowed me to learn from my mistakes and kind of play at my own pace, and I wish that some of the other Souls games were more like Elden Ring in that respect, but I'm not petitioning for them to change or to be like that. My personal experience with Elden Ring was that it was much more new player friendly than some of the prior Souls games, especially like Bloodborne and stuff that I've played. But
yeah, I
don't
really have anywhere else to go with this. I pretty much said my piece on it. It's I don't understand why people are so upset that there's not a difficulty option. If you can't do it, then oh well. Like it wasn't meant for you. Just like a little kid isn't supposed to watch an R-rated movie or something. I'm just trying to make a comparison between two mediums that aren't really similar.
Yeah. So in other words, be like, okay, well, yeah, I get what you're saying. So take a movie that's like rated R because it has, inappropriate scenes or murder or whatever. Like, oh, the Halloween movies, like, we want everyone to be able to see those. So how can we make Michael Myers more, kid-friendly? Like, eventually you have to water it down to the point that it kind of loses that. Now, just a fair note here, and Ben just pointed this out in the comments, let it be known that Nicole has actually admitted she doesn't think Dark Souls should have a difficulty setting, which is true. She did say that. But I think the idea is that maybe the game itself would be more... I mean, again, I don't know how you make it more accessible, or how you make it more, user-friendly.
They did with Elden Ring.
Yeah.
That was the more accessible option of the version of the game, of Dark Souls.
It's fantastic. I have gone on record on the show multiple times saying how much I think Elden Ring is just an absolute gem of a game. I haven't played as many Souls games as you have, but I've played about 4 of them in various forms or fashion, and I would say it's the best Souls game by far, at least that I've played, but, yeah. Scrooge in the comments says, Ray did not realize that it says Nicole under Dustin's video. No, I do realize that.
This is Nicole.
Yeah, Dustin is filling in for Nicole today.
She went to France and she became more French.
She's in France, so we had to replace her with a French person. That's sort of the way we had to put that out. No, it's all the graphics now are like hardwired, and I didn't remember before the show that I needed to like make a separate template thing. And I just didn't have the time. So I thought it'd be funnier to just leave it, because on the actual playback on the podcast you won't see it anyway. So it doesn't really matter too much. Again, I'm with you. I actually don't think they should have an easy mode. I like dying in those games. I don't like it, like it frustrates me, but I like the challenge of dying and then being like, okay, well, I fucked up here, I need to go back and figure out how to do this differently. And I personally struggle from an ability to like adapt and like get better at things. I tend to make the same mistake multiple times, which is more of a me problem. But I eventually get frustrated to the point that I'm able to make it way through. And the thing that I think does really drive it home, especially for a game like Elden Ring, is there were bosses that were fucking brutal in that game. And I mean, I haven't beaten it. I'm at the end, but I don't know that I'm ever actually going to finish it. Because I just can't get past Malekith. But the Godskin duo, for example, just a really, really tough boss fight, or a couple of the dragons, and you die over and over and over, and then when you finally beat them, the gratification that you feel is like great. Like it's like a high. It's like, holy shit, I finally did it. Like I got through these people. So I think if that difficulty factor wasn't there, the games wouldn't necessarily be as as good as they are.
I agree.
So I'm with you, but I do think in some communities that is definitely considered a hot take.
Yeah, no, like I said, there's no. I mean, if you say that it should have difficulty options, people are going to hate you, and if you say it shouldn't have difficulty options, people are also going to hate you.
This is true. There really is no pleasing everyone, so you might as well just.
That's why I started with that one, but I thought it was a good one.
It makes sense, and honestly, I think that Nicole has some very valid points, and where she comes from in terms of wanting the accessibility is definitely something I can respect. It's just, I would almost rather them make a separate game entirely that was different, or play a game entirely. There are plenty of games that are Souls-esque that are not anywhere near as difficult. Like Code Vein was one I played and enjoyed what I played of it, but it's nowhere near as hard or as difficult as some of these. Like, I'm sure there's alternatives that are...
just put the game down and say, yeah, this isn't for me. Like, I don't know, because people like that. Not that adding a difficulty option is going to ruin someone else's experience, who's not going to choose those lower difficulties. But for the developer, if they don't want it, it could ruin their vision of the game. And also, they have to put more development time into that kind of shit that they don't want to do.
Right, it's not like they're doing... And it's not... I don't think it would make them enough money that it would even be worth it. Like, in other words, Elden Ring sold a lot, and they didn't have
20 million copies.
20 million, is that the number? Okay, so that's a lot. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of money, that's a lot of... But the thing about Elden Ring, too, is when it came out, it was so unbelievably hyped. It got caught up in that mainstream whirlwind on, like, social media and everything, where, like, people who normally don't play those kinds of games were hearing about it, were getting into it, and it just caught fire. And, you know, we were coming out of the pandemic. I think people were still looking... It was, you know, one of the first big, like, games you could play on the next-gen consoles. I just think Elden Ring just took off in a way that, like, most of the Souls games probably haven't. Like, that's not to say that they're not good, they're not successful, but Elden Ring was another level. It was like, you had mainstream streamers and content creators, people who don't even normally touch those types of games, playing this, and it was dominating everything. So yeah, a lot more people have eyes on it, and a lot more people might be saying, oh, this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or this isn't, like, super accessible, but, you know, it was just a timing thing. But, yeah. Here's one that I think just kind of plays a little bit on what you said, and I don't know whether or not you're going to agree. People give Call of Duty shit because all the games are basically the same, but every Souls game is basically just that.
So, yes and no. I mean, yeah, if you get any game in a series, they're going to mostly be the same. But Souls games are gonna have different bosses, whereas in something like or different enemies in general, whereas something in like Call of Duty, I shot a guy.
But you shot him with a different gun, or you shot him with a different...
It's still shooting a machine gun, a rifle, a pistol. Whereas you can do something different in a Souls game. So I can build magic, I can build dexterity, I can build strength. I can shoot one of 4 or 5 types of guns in a Call of Duty game. Also, Souls games don't come out every year.
This is true. What is it, like once every 2 or 3 years usually, right? I don't know when.
Yeah, I mean, there's only if we're talking about like FromSoft ones, there's
Dark
only
Souls 1, 2, 3, Demon Souls,
6.
Sekiro,
Elden Ring.
Bloodborne.
Yeah, so there's 3, 4, 5,
So it should be 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7.
And Demon Souls came out, what, like a year before Elden Ring? Or close to it? It may not have been exactly.
Well, no, it came out on the PS3 in like 2006.
Oh, so okay, sorry. I meant the remake. Yes, true. Sorry, it did come out much. I don't know. In the comments, Gru said Sekiro is much different than Elden Ring, which, I mean, I don't.
It is.
It looks different aesthetically, but I mean, imagine what they're boiling down to. But I don't know. There's so much customization and so many different things you could do. One of the things that would make those games cool is if they actually had a coherent story at some point.
I don't think they have story modes anymore. Do they? I thought they got rid of them.
Not COD. I'm talking about Souls games. My apologies. So like Elden Ring's story is like very hard to follow, and I know they marketed that like George R.R. Martin was working on it and all that stuff, but it didn't really feel like a story that had that that kind of insane not insane. I guess what I'm saying is a way to evolve that form of story, to have a story that the player is actually more invested in. Because can you honestly say playing Elden Ring you cared that much about the story?
No, not that much, but as Scrooge Champ says in chat, Sekiro does have like a.
It does have a story mode. Okay.
Yes.
So I mean, again, I have, like I said earlier, I haven't played Sekiro. I just know that generally, at least based on the Dark Souls and I don't know about Bloodborne, but Elden Ring, the stories are not exactly easy to follow, which isn't really the point of those games.
They're all more lore based than they are straight out told to you.
Yeah,
it's a lot of like reading item descriptions and
putting stuff
like
together. It's just one of the, like, I don't know, I still don't understand. I'll tell you, it's just as funny. I don't know if Elden Ring is actually supposed to take place in like an actual world, or because I know like with the Souls games, it's like a purgatory type thing where you're like dead and you're out there, but Elden Ring like sort of poses it like that's maybe not the case, and then there's like
kind of, that's why you're in the lands between. It's like a limbo,
right? But then there's like the library and there's all the people and there's like a fully functioning level of something going on there, so it's like it's I'm not saying it like it matters. I know the lore doesn't matter. My whole point was like it seemed like there were elements of story there, but I wasn't sure what you were supposed to feel, and like at the end of it, like I don't know. Not feel. I'm sorry, that's not the right word. I'm not like emotionally connected to Elden Ring.
I played Elden Ring. I was so sad.
No, it's not emotion. Okay, but there's a lot more depth to the game, at least based on the characters you interact with and the people you talk to, that it doesn't necessarily feel like you're just in like a purgatory. It feels like you're in a world that like exists or functions. Why would a purgatory even have a functioning society and all these different things going on?
People are stuck there forever.
I guess that's true. I mean that's fair, but that's all. Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. But I'm just saying the groundwork is there for an interesting story, so maybe that'd be something that should go in the future. But of course, FromSoft has Armored Core coming out next, right? Later this year. So
yeah, in
we're
August.
Not getting a new Souls game this year, unless they shockingly drop something in.
No, I think we're getting Elden Ring DLC though.
Oh, okay, well that's interesting. Maybe I'll beat the game someday. Hey, what do you got for me?
Oh, shit. Hold on. All right. This. So all 3D Sonic games are bad.
I don't agree with this at all. But go ahead, explain your argument first, and then I'll rebuttal.
They're bad. End of argument. They're not fun.
I don't think I could more strongly disagree with you. I think Sonic Frontiers is absolutely a gem of a game. It's by no means perfect. It is by no means like a fucking instant classic, but it is an extremely fun game. I enjoyed it more. It was definitely not the best video game I've played in a long time, but I enjoyed the playthrough experience more than almost any game I played in the past, like, 2 years. I think Sonic Frontiers did so many things right to move the franchise in a different direction. Like, if they're going to continue making these 3D games and doing this, and like making it more open world, making it more, combat oriented, but allowing you to still go fast and still have like the playable levels that are reminiscent of, the actual Sonic levels. I thought that game was such a step in the right direction, and I think it was extremely, extremely enjoyable to play. But I gotta be honest with you, other than Frontiers, I don't think I can really, I don't think I can really defend too many other ones, because although Sonic Generations and Sonic Colors are both technically considered 3D, and those are both considered good games as well.
Generations is half 3D, and most people like the 2D stuff in Generations.
Mm-hmm.
Not the 3D stuff. And then Colors is, it's Colors.
Fair. I can't really defend any games other than Frontiers, but I will defend that one.
Adventure blows. Adventure 2 blows. Fucking Forces is terrible.
Yeah.
06 is one of the worst games ever. Black Knight's horrible.
Sonic Heroes.
Unleashed is atrocious.
Sonic and the Secret Rings. I have a whole list. I pulled the 3D games list up after you said it because I was like, wait, I could defend these. Sonic 3D Blast? I don't know if that's that good. Sonic Unleashed is bad. Sonic Adventure 1 has a 90 on Metacritic, which is interesting. But I guess
it came out in 1999.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Sonic Adventure 2 has an 89, and Sonic Adventure 1 has an 87.
Because they came out fucking 30 years ago. Not quite, but 20.
Yeah, I don't know.
5 years ago.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I think Frontiers is the exception. I really do think that game was exceptionally good. And I also will say you have not played it. So
I've seen enough where I know.
In what way?
Artistically, it looks terrible. It's all miscombobulated. It's floating platforms that make no sense. It's just running from place to place for these little challenges. I guess I don't even know what they're called in the game, but it's like floating platforms where you bounce off the thing and then maybe you grind a rail. Oh, you did it! Great.
It's so
fucking great.
It's so much more in depth than that in terms of it. Like, there's different challenges to unlock sections of the map, but there's speed challenges, time stuff. Right?
Woo! Run fast, and you can't see where you're fucking running because you're running so fast.
So I will actually agree with you. When I talked about this, gave my thoughts in a segment after I finished the game on the show, I said one of the biggest criticisms I have of the game is the platforms appearing in and out of nowhere that just fade in and out of the background. I am by no means sitting here telling you that this game is a classic or not, but it is. To say Frontiers is bad, I think, is an extremely strong take. I don't think the take, it feels like a take made to be like, haha, yeah, they're all bad, but like someone that hasn't actually played the game, because it has so much potential and so much reason for optimism if you're a fan of Sonic games, for what that game did and what it could be if they had maybe
I'll agree it's better than what came before it. But I don't think it's good.
I think Frontiers is the best 3D Sonic game that they've made, personally speaking. That's just
a low bar.
Opinion. I mean, it is a relatively low bar looking at some of the other ones. But
low bar.
All I can say is that I legitimately had an absolute blast playing that game. I loved it. The music, the boss fights, the atmosphere.
The boss fights spam the button until it dies.
No. The boss fights are the best part of the game. It's not even close.
Only like the boss fights because of the music.
There's incredibly epic music, and the music is the soundtrack of the game as a whole is fucking amazing. I don't care what anybody says.
If you replace, I'm not gonna shit on the soundtrack because the soundtrack is actually good. That's probably the best part of the game.
It's amazing.
The rest of the game sucks.
It doesn't suck. That's such a hot take. I guess that's the theme of the show.
Wow, weird.
But come on, to say it sucks. You haven't even played it. And also, you don't like Sonic. If you don't like Sonic games in general, then you're already going to be predisposed not to like it. But if you're someone who enjoys Sonic games, this game, there are
Sonic games.
Yeah,
2D ones that are good.
I'd like to point out that even though in the chat right now, Scrooge is agreeing with you, and I know he feels the same way about that you do. When he played and watched me play the actual levels within the levels that are recreations of older stuff or newer versions, even he was like, oh, these are fun, these are cool. So it's not like the game is all bad. The game has all
bad. So you admit the rest of it's bad.
The game is far from perfect. Bad just feels
come on now. He likes it so much, he got the game signed by Sonic the Hedgehog.
I did get a signed copy of the game thanks to my friends here, which is actually really cool to have. And I feel like you also included this take because you knew I was going to defend this, and it was going to be like,
Yeah,
nah.
I kind of did.
But like, it's just not. I guess maybe my expectations are so low because every Sonic game I've played this 3D before playing Frontiers, I've hated. Sonic Adventure 2 was miserable. That game has a good rating, but it sucks. There's like 3 good levels, and it was like, okay. But other than that, it sucked. This game is actually engaging. It's fun, and yes, it's a little bit. I don't like the grayscale coloring. It's odd, but the story was fine because they didn't try too hard, and it had at least enough to keep you interested. And I will say this: I've said it since I played the game. The boss fights are the best part, and it's not even close. The epic music.
Yeah, I love spamming the. I don't even know what button it is. Is it the X button?
Usually it's X to dodge, and then you have to... But like, when you fight the Wyvern, you have to, like, ride his tail and strike him at certain points, and then you can do a super attack. Like, it's quick time events for a lot of it, but it's an epic feel, and
Everybody hates fucking quick time events.
Okay, but it works in this context because it's the only part of the game that's like that. It's these giant scale fucking, like, boss creatures, the Titans they're called. It's just absolutely...
Yeah, there's like 3 of them.
4.
I think there's actually 5.
4.
But...
There's 4, and the end credits is
and
also
then the last
boss. Yes, the 4 main boss fights. Brother, I mean, like, the Sonic fights...
What is it, 3 minutes of the game?
Oh, no, because I legitimately was in fucking ecstasy playing those games during the boss fights. I had so much fun. I was sitting there, like, super hyped. I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, it was the same type of excitement that I had for, like, when I played Yakuza, and I played some of the bigger fights at the end that I liked. Like, I get into that sort of, like, the climaxing. But it was just...
You love climaxing?
I like building to a strong finish, is I guess what I'm saying. But...
You like to edge?
Yeah.
Edge your way all the way to the boss?
Yeah. Thanks. I will agree with you that most of it, but Sonic Frontiers is a good game. It is not a great game. I think it's definitely one of my favorites. But there's a big distinction between favorite and objectively looking at something and saying, I can watch a movie that
your
sucks.
favorite can be a bad game, it's
yeah,
fine.
But it is not a bad game, and I think you've never played it. So, like,
I don't want to play a bad game.
But I just think to call a game bad that you've never played...
I've seen enough of it where I know what the game is.
You think you know, but...
And it's ugly to look at.
Okay, yeah, it's not exactly colorful, but it's also...
Oh, it's colorful.
Well,
green and blue.
I guess what I'm saying is the game rating-wise has been rated really well for a Sonic game. And so normally if you were going to say a game was bad and you were basing it on A, things you've seen, and B, what other people have said, this game doesn't fall into that.
No, it has good reviews. I'm going against the grain here. The game has good reviews. And I'm saying it's bad.
And you're just wrong. I mean, you're allowed to your opinion. You're not wrong, but I just mean, like, that's just such a bad take. It's a really, really solid title in the 3D Sonic library. It looks
like they took Sonic and then put him into the Unity fucking, like, basic map they give you. And they said, let's throw a couple platforms here, a couple spring pads, a couple grind rails out of Ratchet & Clank. Yeah, that's good.
It is kind of fun to, like, grind through the levels and do all that. And the music that plays throughout the game, not even just the boss fights, it's the actual soundtrack and stuff, even for mini-bosses, is, like, super hype. It, like, gets you into the moment. Like,
you're talking a lot about the music and not a lot
I think
about
the soundtrack is A+. I absolutely 100%...
I didn't say... I said the soundtrack is good.
The soundtrack is incredibly good.
That's the one thing most Sonic games get right.
I guess that's true, which is weird, because it's like... Yeah, no, I suppose that's fair. I guess... The best part of Frontiers, in my opinion, is the boss fights, and they did such a good job. And I've seen some people joke that they put all of the effort into the boss fights and none of the effort into the rest of it, which is funny. I don't agree with that fully, but I can kind of understand the basis for that. I don't know. I just think it's a really good game, and a really fun game. And video games at the end of the day are supposed to be fun, and there was not a single point when I played that game where I wasn't, like, enjoying the experience from start to finish. And ultimately, that's, I guess, what you're really looking for in a game, so... Yeah. That's kind of how I feel.
I did that one because I knew you'd have an opinion on it, so...
Well, I mean, it's just, like, it's... I didn't expect to like the game. I bought it because it was on fucking Black Friday sale. It was super cheap, and I was like, wow, for $29, this game was 100% worth the purchase. Like, it was really fun, and I'm waiting for the DLC to come out, because they're supposed to be adding some DLC, so I want to, like, go back into it and play it a little bit more. I don't think I won't start the game over or anything because I don't want to do all that again. But it was really fun for, what it was, what it was trying to be, I think. You paid $29 for some good music and a game, and that's about it. See, that's not true. I mean, well, first of all, $29 for the soundtrack alone would be worth it, in my opinion. Obviously, objectively, you get it on YouTube, but you get my point. The game is fun. The mini levels are enjoyable. Like, it is a good experience. So it's not like you're like bored, and it's not unplayable. Like, it's not like the Knuckles levels in Sonic Adventure 2, where you're basically just like miserably fucking flying around in a space station, falling over for an hour. Like, there is good things to say. So that's. I'm gonna show it behind Dustin next. Be ready, Scrooge says. All right, I'm gonna give you one of my own takes. The Wii U is a severely underrated console that was really only a flop because it was called the Wii U, and parents most likely didn't realize that it was a brand new system versus just like a upgraded version of the Wii.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty terrible, and it flopped for more reasons than being called the Wii U.
No, I know, but you have to think that the marketing element of it definitely played into it by not.
Oh, it was part of it, but also it didn't have anything. The whole library is like 200 games.
The library on the Wii U is excellent.
Excellent.
I have a few examples prepared for you. I just got to pull up my list again. Hold on. And okay, so objectively speaking, yes, I know a lot of the games on the Wii U ended up coming out on the Switch, but at the time, they weren't on anything. So to sit there and use that as the sole defense against it is not necessarily good. But I'll just give you a couple. Mario Kart 8. Amazing. And yes, they put it on Switch, but that came out on the Wii U, and it was a fantastic game. Of course, Smash. Awesome. What else came out? Splatoon. Splatoon 1 was such a great is strong. Splatoon 1 was a very fun, very well-made game that utilized the game. But yeah, good feels more fair. Super Mario Maker. Pikmin 3. What was the other one? Super Mario Bros. U, I believe, came out on that as well. And that one, I don't know if that one ever
No one likes those fucking games.
They're fun!
No one likes those games.
I wouldn't buy a system
for
them.
Why did you say Super Mario 3D World?
That's the one that I meant.
That's not what you said!
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You're right. I did read the wrong thing. Sorry. Yeah, Super Mario 3D World is the one I was thinking of. And then Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, another really good game. Like, there's a lot of things. They utilize
like 7 games.
Okay, I could go through the list and see other games that were on there that I don't distinctly remember. Like, I know Bayonetta 2 is good. That's probably a good one. Rayman Legends, like Yoshi's Woolly World. No, that was bad. Okay, so but I mean, you had access to a lot of NES Remix.
You couldn't even name 10 fucking games.
Okay, the point is that the Wii. Oh, well, my mic just fell. Whoops. The point is that the Wii U is genuinely... The gamepad mechanic was cool. Being able to, like, play that with it on there, and just the actual games on it was pretty good. And I think it's a better...
Yeah, all 10 of them.
It's a better system than it is given credit for. It is better than the N64. It is better than the Wii.
Well, I don't know about that. I hate the N64, and I think the N64 might be better.
It's got... But... It's objectively hard to have the conversation knowing that the Switch came out. But if you're looking at just before Switch...
I have not said a single thing about the Nintendo Switch.
I'm looking at some of these titles. But like when Super Smash Bros. Came out, or when... Tropical Freeze, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, another great game. Forgot about that one.
Yeah, it is. You're still under 10 games, but yeah,
but there's not that many games on it that, like...
Yeah, because it fucking sucks!
It was only out for a couple of years as well. It clearly flopped. The flopping definitely helped make it so that, like, they weren't going to keep making stuff for it to the same extent. But, I don't know, I think the Wii U as a system was pretty good. And I think it's going to be one of those things people look back at 10 years after its release and be like, yeah, this was better than we're giving it credit.
I completely disagree. I don't think that... It doesn't have enough games on it. What are you going to look back on? The fucking 10 games you couldn't even name?
I mean, it did have Twilight Princess. It had some other stuff, too.
It had Twilight Princess is a fucking GameCube game, though.
I know. Mario Party 10 kind of sucked, actually.
That game's horrible.
Yeah, I hated it. I remember we bought that one. We all bought it when it came out.
I still have mine sealed.
It had the amiibo.
I think it's right in that closet.
I mean, that game was bad. That was a bad game. Oh my god, is that? But yeah, okay, so fair enough. But I do think overall the Wii
And
U
compared to every other Nintendo console, it's worse than pretty much all of them.
might be better than the NES. I mean, the NES is old and crap.
It's not better than the
you know?
NES.
Hmm.
NES has a lot of garbage on it, but
Yeah.
it has a lot of really good stuff too.
Just for record, I googled it. There are 795 games for the Wii U total.
I think that's Japan. We didn't get that
206
many.
of them were physically
Yeah.
released. But,
Yeah, okay, so there's a bunch of eShop games and shit, but I wasn't counting those.
Right. No, that's fair, and I don't know them, so I'm not going to defend them. Obviously, that'd be stupid. But I'm just saying, I don't know, I very fondly remember the Wii U, and it was just such a, like, it felt like the gamepad, being able
Thank
to
God
use...
you're wearing your glasses.
Why?
Your nostalgia glasses.
I honestly, I love the Wii U. It's one of the first games.
You love it so much you don't have one.
No,
because it's a fucking
they're
waste
expensive.
of money.
And also,
Yeah,
anything
because no one bought it.
Okay,
There's
well-
like 200 of them in existence.
we had fun playing Wii U stuff too. Like, I don't know, Mario Maker was a great game. But I honestly think what I really liked about it, all jokes aside, was being able to use the gamepad as a controller to play stuff on the TV. I think that was a good... So the Switch, you can obviously... No, you can't. You really can't use the Switch thing as a controller, right? Because the Switch, it has to be docked in order to work. So, I don't know. I thought that was a really cool feature, and I very fondly remember playing games like Splatoon and Smash and the gamepad and just the portability of it. I don't know. I just think... All I'm saying is I think it's a better system than people give it credit for. And I think it's underrated in terms of, like, what it could do. I mean, how much better is the Switch than the Wii U in terms of processing power? It's not that much.
Probably pretty close. I don't know.
Like it's not like the Switch blew it out of the water on performance. The Switch obviously had a lot more. It was smaller, more compact.
Switch is probably a little more powerful, but
yeah, I'm sure it is.
probably
But
not
I mean,
that-
I don't
that
think it's
much.
the difference between the PS3 and the PS4. But I don't know. I just think it's overall. I like the Wii U. It's just I wouldn't really buy one because like if I wanted to play the games on it, I could just get a Switch, and a Switch is cheaper than the
Yeah,
Wii
because
U.
it's not that good.
Well, I don't know. I just. It's the only argument that it's not that good is because it had a limited selection of games. Just doesn't really feel
That's
like.
what defines a console. Is the games on it.
But almost every game on it was good. Or, well, not almost every game, but almost all the big
200
games.
of them, you couldn't name 10!
Mario Kart 8, Mario Party 10, Breath of the Wild.
Mario Party 10 sucks.
Breath of the Wild, Paper Mario Color Splash, whatever that is.
Sucks.
Super
Terrible.
Mario 3D World is good. Super Mario
I don't
Bros.
like it. I
U.
don't like it.
Smash.
Okay, no one likes those games.
Donkey
Smash,
Kong
yep.
Tropical Freeze, Pikmin 3, Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. I didn't like that one, but it was a cool concept. Drawing the path, like using the gamepad. That was
They already did it. They did it on the DS.
Okay, well, Super Mario Maker, Rayman Legends, the NES Remix Pack was kind of neat. And then you had Pokken. Pokken was actually
Alright, you're stretching it now,
Pokken's
though.
not a terrible game. In
Pokken
fairness.
is not a fucking...
No.
If you're trying to sell your system to me
Yeah, no,
with
no.
Pokken...
Okay, but I also had Splatoon and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, both really good games. Hyrule Warriors. And that's about where the drop-off happens. Although Mario Tennis might be okay.
Oh, it's bad.
Is
That
it?
game's bad. Yeah.
Beautiful Joe. Oh, no, that's Wonderful 101. Zelda.
Oh,
Alright, so it does get progressively... I mean, I'm just looking on... It does get a bit worse as you go along into it. But, I mean, my point is, Devil's Third, I don't know, is that good or bad? Is that a meme?
it's
like,
bad. Yeah, it's a
It's
meme.
very expensive on GameStop's
Yes,
website.
it
It's like
is.
$70. I didn't know
It's
GameStop
like a lot more than that on eBay.
I didn't know GameStop went more... Or is it really? Because they have two in stock.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they come on the case, though.
Oh, good point, yeah. Alright, so objectively speaking, I guess it does sort of get a lot worse as you go along, because I'm just looking now, and a lot of it's like other ports, and once you get to these pages, it's like, okay, well, I mean, I don't know, Transformers: Rise of the Dark Spark, and of course
Don't even know what that
Sonic
is.
Lost World. Okay, so yes, the selection of games is lesser, but the concept of the Wii U and the idea of the gamepad and the console itself, I think,
Could have worked,
yes.
but it didn't.
But
So therefore, the console's bad.
did they give up on it because it didn't sell as well? And did it not sell as well partially because it wasn't marketed well? Could they have put a stronger marketing behind it to say, hey, look, you can play this gamepad in your hands mobile, or you can play it using that as a controller, where the Switch is just one or the other? could stronger marketing have made more of an impact for the Switch? If Nintendo had gotten more
Naming
behind
it something else could have helped it, but
Yeah.
it still would have flopped because they didn't put any games on it.
So, I know this isn't necessarily on our main topic, but I'm just curious. Do you think that Nintendo's next system, whenever it comes out in like 10 years, is going to be exclusive, like just like the Switch, or do you think they could go more console-based? What do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be a Switch 2, essentially. It's the Switch is the third highest selling console of all time, something like that.
Mhm.
I don't think they are going to reinvent the wheel again and have another Wii U.
Fair enough. I just think the Wii U is a decent I think it gets crapped on a lot. I don't think it deserves to be crapped on as much as it gets because I think for all the things that went wrong with it, it had a lot of promising. In a way, it's like the Sonic Frontiers of consoles because there's some underlying elements of good stuff there that
Oh, so yeah, you mean it's bad?
No, I mean, it's not perfect, and it definitely was not supported as well as it could have been. But underneath it all, you can kind of see potential, I guess is what I'm saying.
It had potential. It did nothing with it because it was bad.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't think people, but what do you got?
Before I do my next one, can we take like a 2-minute break so I can get a drink?
Yeah, by all means.
All right.
We'll take a quick break, and I'll run the intro again. Let people know where you guys can find us. Hey everybody, it's Brandon from Uncharted Horizons, and on behalf of Nicole and myself, we want to thank you guys for checking out the show. It'll be starting shortly, but I just wanted to let you know where you can keep up with us if you're interested. We're live every Thursday on Twitch at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time at Uncharted Horizons PC. The YouTube channel for the show officially exists now under the same name, at Uncharted Horizons PC on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter at UNCH Podcast, and you can find my personal Twitter account at LoveshackYT, and Nicole's personal account at Ellison_712 on Twitter as well. We do post things from the show there, and would love to interact with you guys, so feel free to check us out. As always, new episodes are posted on all places you get your podcasts, about 24 to 48 hours at most after the show airs live, and we'd love to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching, and let's get into the show. All right, we're back. Thanks for everybody for the pause there. So yeah, no, I also grabbed a drink. So yeah, what do you got? We'll do one or two more. I think we got a bit of time here to rip off a couple more hot takes. Let's see what other bad takes you're gonna throw out at me.
Okay. Let's go with replaying games is mostly a waste of time.
Oh. And you're in favor of that? You agree with that, or you disagree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, so that's okay. So replaying games is mostly a waste of time. Why?
This doesn't count like multiplayer games.
No, obviously.
'Cause that's not replaying a game.
Right. So
why? Because
why?
it's better to experience new things than to keep rehashing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Okay. Before I give you my opinion on it, I just want to ask another question. Do you think that's the case if a game, say, gets not remade, but like remastered or put on a next gen system with like upgrades, or like what they did with The Witcher, where they like changed some stuff? Like if you're playing it and getting a different perspective, do you think that's still a waste of time?
I mean, it depends on the situation.
Okay. So, and Scrooge just said in the comments, asking just for argument's sake, do you think rewatching shows or movies are a waste of time?
Shows, absolutely. It takes way too long.
Mm-hmm.
Movies, not so much, because, I mean, it's an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hour and a half, 2 hours.
I actually, on the movie thing, I actually kind of agree with you. I do rewatch shows sometimes, but never, I don't invest in them. So after I watch a show for the first time, if I'm, like, working at home or doing something, I might put on, like I've been watching that 70s show and stuff recently, where I'll just have something on in the background as, like, background noise, or The Office. But I'm not really rewatching it so much as it is just something I'm familiar with. I'm just putting on to have, like, something on in the background. I don't really like rewatching movies unless it's a movie that I love and I want to watch it with somebody that hasn't seen it to see them
That's
experience
why I
it.
said mostly, because I think if it's like your favorite game ever, like obviously it's not a waste of time to replay your fucking favorite game
Mhm.
or one of your favorite games. But if you know, Final Fantasy just came out. If I beat Final Fantasy and I was like, I'm gonna play it again,
Yeah,
I think that's a waste of
that's
time.
kind of weird, especially within any level of like immediacy. Um, I mean, I like I said, yeah, like he said, shows like Breaking Bad. Like I don't know, there's shows I watch a lot of like dramas and stuff. Like I like The Blacklist a lot. I watch that. I'm not gonna rewatch that whole show when it ends. Like once you've seen it, you know you know what happens. But I don't know. I guess comedy shows, sitcoms. I've rewatched How I Met Your Mother, King of Queens, things like that. But I also think that's a little different. Video games, though, I mostly agree with you. Because I think unless there's a different experience to be had going through and playing the game, there's really no point because half
And
the
that's why I use the word mostly, because there are games you could do something completely different, and the game is completely different. Say something like Fallout or Oblivion, Skyrim, whatever. Um,
I would say Resident
but
Evil games have replayability, like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil like 2 remake, like some of those games where you can play through it again but as a different character, or you can
well,
play
two
through it again and
remake
do
for sure, or
yeah,
both twos really. Four not so much,
no,
in my opinion.
no,
Like I
that's
said,
fair.
I think it's a waste of time.
I don't inherently disagree with you. The other thing is I can't really think of any games that like I would want to replay. Like obviously, like I mentioned Sonic Frontiers, like I love the game. I would never want to pick it up and start it from the beginning, but like I want to go back to it when the DLC comes out because it's gonna have more story and like play that. Like, but I don't think that really counts as replaying so much as it does just like playing additional content.
I
Um,
just feel like there's so many games you could play. Like people drive me crazy going back to the movie and TV show thing
yeah,
when people just watch The fucking
I
Office.
knew you were gonna say that. Just reruns of The Office,
Just
start to
watch
finish.
something else, please. Just watch something
Yeah,
else.
I
And
think
that's
it's
kind of how I
different.
feel about video games.
I think it's different with background noise. Like if you have something on, or you go to bed and you pop something on, and you're not really going to pay attention to it, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, like if you're investing your time into watching something, either it's been
Sitting
a
down,
while
yeah, I'm talking sitting down on the couch and you're looking at the screen
and you're
and that's what
invested.
you're
Yeah,
doing.
yeah. I don't really think there's any video games that I could think of off the top of my head that I would want to start over and play again. Maybe some games I played when I was younger, like younger. Like I'd love to play Duelist of
You're
the
like
Roses. Like,
15 years
yeah, like
15 years apart.
I'd like to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist of the Roses again at some point because I played that game so much as a kid, and I would love to like play it again and just experience it again. But it's been 12 years, 13 years since I've played that. I don't have a PlayStation 2, so I don't really have a way to play it. But generally speaking, like that's a game I'd like to sit down and play. But what's that, like 5 hours maybe? It's not like a huge amount of my time. I'm inclined to agree with you for the most part. I know like RPGs and stuff, but like I don't know, I couldn't imagine like an RPG, even something like Skyrim, like it's different and you go through it and there's different experiences. Yeah, but like at the end of the day, like I don't know,
It's
you're playing
mostly the
Skyrim again.
same.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm with you. I don't really think that's that hot of a take.
I
I
didn't
think
think you
it's
were gonna agree with me on that one.
I just I don't know. I can't think of a game I would sit there and say, "Hey, I'd want to play." Like I don't know. I love Super Monkey Ball. It's coming up on my annual decade playthrough of Super Monkey Ball at some point. Like if I had it, I would be like, "Hey, let's play a couple games of it." Or
On
fucking
Switch, they remade it for Switch.
yeah, but it's not like it's not like the new. It's I mean it's. Isn't it bad? Is it Banana Blitz? Is that
No,
the one?
it's no. That was the Wii game they remade, but they remade 1 and 2 and put it in a collection on
Oh,
Switch.
okay. Because I almost
It
bought
might be on
Banana
everything
Blitz. It was like
actually.
$6.99 on PS4, and then we looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, this game has terrible reviews." It wasn't that. I love Monkey Ball. It's fun. It's just a real, but I guess it's technically a multiplayer kind of. I mean, it is, but like, so I guess even that really kind of goes back to your point of like, I don't know, unless you're playing like Super Mario World or something. Um, I don't know. I'm with you. I really don't think that unless the game's story is going to be exponentially different as you go through and play it again. What do you think about Persona? Like playing Persona 5 and then playing Persona 5 Royal. Like, yes, they're technically different games, but are they different enough where playing both is.
So yes, but only because you can't play that content without playing the game again. If you could just buy the DLC or the differences and somehow play that,
Yeah.
um, then that would be the way to go with it. But
Okay.
you can't.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. All right. Well. Oh. Well. All right. I'm gonna take a Reddit one here. Here's an interesting take. This is probably gonna ruffle with a few people. Where did it go? All right. So this guy's take essentially says that I have like a notes from it. I lost the actual exact post, but the guy's take essentially said Metal Gear Solid is not a good stealth series at all. It is a bad stealth game with a bad story, and Hideo Kojima is so overrated.
Okay, it's a really good stealth game. Particularly like 4. The story is stupid and confusing,
That I've heard.
but I love it. But no, I think that's kind of absurd. I mean, you can't really talk much on this. This one's tough to talk about because you haven't played a Metal Gear Solid game.
No, but I know Isaac, who's a big fan of the channel as well, really likes the Metal Gear Solid games, and I know that more so. I wasn't really focusing on the story part so much. I mean, we've all watched Donkey's video talking about the story of Metal Gear Solid that encompasses it better than pretty much anything I could explain. But the idea of it being a bad stealth game is what the guy said here. He said it's considered one of the best in the genre, but I never understood it as a bad stealth game.
No, like I say, particularly the later ones like 4 and 5, because 5 is kind of okay. Here's your mission. Figure out how to do it, whether it's infiltrate sneakily and go, behind and under shit, or you can just go in and fucking blow shit up and do it that way, which isn't stealth, but yeah, the way the mechanics all work great for the most part. I mean, the older ones are kind of old,
Mhm.
but I think they actually hold up pretty well.
I want to play them. I might actually try 3 when the remake comes. I
Well,
I
they're
don't want to.
releasing the collection.
I'm hesitant to spend a lot of money on them. I don't know how much they cost, but as you know, I get very impatient with stealth games, so I wouldn't want to sink like full price into a game that I'm more than likely going to play
I
and
think
be like,
it's $60 for 3 games.
oh, that's not terrible then. Are they upgrade like remastered at all, or is it just straight up?
No, I
just
think it's just
re-releasing?
ports.
Okay.
It might be like HD, but
Yeah. No, I was just curious. I mean, it doesn't really matter that much anyway. I've heard good things about them, and I just thought it was interesting because I don't really hear people say things about Metal Gear Solid like that level of definitive negativity.
yeah, some people just like to hate on Kojima. I don't know, because he's pop. I mean, they're popular. You're gonna get people who dislike them.
I mean, I know Death Stranding was maybe a bit slower than most people would like. I didn't really play much of it at all, but I mean, I could understand the idea that Death Stranding may be a little overrated, but I don't know. I think Kojima's got a pretty good body of work there. It's a shame he's not working on the new Silent Hill stuff, but maybe someday we'll get an actual PT game.
No, you never will.
If you guys are listening on the channel here at all, or the podcast later, let us know. Tweet at us and let me know what what you guys think are like some hot gaming takes, one way or another. And we'll retweet them. I just like to hear from people on this because it's so funny how big of a difference there is. Scrooge said in the comments, Scarlet Violet is the worst mainline game in the Pokemon franchise.
That or Sun and Moon.
I didn't think Scarlet and Violet were that bad. I mean, like from what I heard, I should say. But then again, Nintendo kind of gets a pass for everything now. So
They're broken.
Yeah,
They're literally broken.
Yeah, I mean, they've patched it by now, right? Like they've put.
I don't think so. I mean, not significantly. The game doesn't run because it's on the Switch.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's a valid point, actually. I saw some guy on Reddit say that the Halo games were objectively terrible, essentially, which
I don't agree with that.
sets me
Maybe
off
like
a bit.
after 3.
I mean, my personal hot take is that Halo 3 is and this is, again, strictly opinion, I think Halo 3 is the best multiplayer FPS that has been made, and I don't know that they've made anything that tops it. Maybe graphically, but in in the space, like in that, I think Halo 3 is the best, most fun, most well-made multiplayer. Yeah, FPS. I really do.
It's probably my favorite too.
I don't know. I know people could say Doom, and I get it, but like Halo 3.
Doom's not really known for its multiplayer though.
No. What is it? Is it Duke Nukem then? That I'm thinking of. Did that have a multiplayer mode?
Quake? Are you talking about like Quake?
I know there was another game that when I've said this with people before, that's the first thing that comes up. It's like this. But I think like Halo 3 obviously is dated, but it still holds up well enough that if you were to go on and play a couple games with people, it's still excellent. Like you obviously it's not like fun enough to sit there and play for like hours and hours and hours. I get that. But it still holds up well. And I honestly think that, and Modern Warfare 2 is another one, as Scrooge just said that in the comments, another just gem of a game. Like, there's no doubt about that one. But I don't know.
Yeah, that era probably had the best, like, first-person multiplayer shooters.
I replayed through all of the Halo games, well, 1 through 4 and Reach. I played through all of them in late 2021, early 2022. And I had never really played through, it had been years since I had played through the campaigns, and I honestly really enjoyed them. I mean, after 3, well, I shouldn't say that, because Reach is good too. After Reach, they do kind of fall off a little bit in terms of quality, although I think 4 was okay. But, I don't know.
4.
You hate 4, like, the campaign as a whole?
Yeah, I did not like 4.
I thought it
I was
had
so
some
excited
moves.
for it, and I hated it.
I remember being excited for it to come out and getting in, and then being like, "Oh, this is okay, I guess." Like I don't know, I didn't love it. It felt like a massive step down, and I hated Reach growing up. I thought Reach sucked until I replayed it like last year, and Reach. But I just thought that was funny because when I saw that post, I'm like, how could people possibly look at that? But I guess that's the beauty of opinions. A couple of quick comment notes here. Scrooge said, hot take, WoW is the best... World of Warcraft is the best multiplayer game ever made.
If I want to stand around bored for a while... Like, yeah,
I don't agree with that, but... I played WoW, like, once or twice with a friend of mine in middle school, and we, like, made a character based on this other kid we went to middle school with that nobody liked, and we walked around being like, I'm garbage. But, you know, we were kids, that's what we did. But yeah, it's that was funny but bad. And I remember playing that with him and Toontown. Do you remember Toontown? I know it's totally random and off topic,
it's still
but
around.
No shot. There's no way. Is it really? Is Toontown still a thing?
Toontown rewritten. Yep.
Wow, that's actually genuinely shocking. There was that whole era, like 2006 or 2005 to like 2009, that era of like online MMOs being massive. You had like Club Penguin, Neopets, fucking
Wizard 101.
World of Warcraft, Wizards 101. I used to play. I dated a girl who played Neopets, and she put, I kid you not, hundreds of hours into Neopets, and I would just log into her account and use her Neo points to play lottery tickets. Because they had, like, scratch-off tickets, so I would play, like, the Neo Points lottery, or you could bet on the turtles in Neopets, and that's what I would do, is I would just sit there and spend time just betting coins on the turtles and buying lottery tickets. I think that's what started me getting into gambling in the first place. But, yeah. Also, Glokage said in the comments, my hot take is the GameCube might be the best system Nintendo has ever put out. I don't even think that's a hot take. I co-sign that take 100%.
It's not, because the Super Nintendo is. Then the GameCube.
I think...
I'll give the GameCube second.
I mean, I could do a whole show about the GameCube and why I think it's such a fucking phenomenal system. And I did also, in fairness, it was like the console I really kind of grew up on. Like when I started to live with my dad and like he had a GameCube and I had every game, you know, Gale of Darkness, fucking... all the Mario, Super Smash Bros. Like we had everything for GameCube, and I have. There's definitely a level of nostalgia there, for it. But it's such a great system, and everybody wants to act like the other systems that came out around the same time were leagues better. But I don't think that's
the
as
PlayStation
true.
2 was.
It was better, but I don't think the gap is as big as people like to act. And I also think GameCube might have been above Xbox, but that's just my personal
Yeah,
hot
it
take I'm
was.
sliding in
It
there.
was.
I know
No,
PS2
that's
is
not a hot
like
take. That's a pretty cold take, I would say. PS2 is better though.
yeah, it is better. It is better. I do that, but I guess I grew up playing a lot of multiplayer games with friends and stuff. So for me, the GameCube was like that was how I was able to do all that stuff. All the games that we played, I'm fucking turning it on and holding down all four buttons so it made like a squeaky noise when the logo booted up. It is partially nostalgia. It really I acknowledge that 100%. But like I don't know, you can't beat those days playing like Mario Party 4, 5, and 6, or Monkey Ball or Smash Brothers. Like GameCube had so many banger titles that just I don't know. I don't think any Nintendo system that's come out after it has had as consistently good a library of games that the GameCube.
Well, what about your favorite, the Wii U?
I said the Wii U's underrated. I didn't say it was better than the GameCube because I don't agree with that at all.
You shouldn't, because the GameCube's way better, but
No, it's fair.
it's not as good as the Super Nintendo.
Fair enough. All right, well, you got one more for me? That was my last one. What do you got?
I got a couple more, but I'll give you one more.
Yeah,
So games are better now than they were when we were younger. Great commentary we got going here.
Sorry, this is... I feel like I have to agree with you, but I don't want to. I don't know if that makes sense. I have to objectively admit that you're right. But then, the little fuzzy feelings inside of me, remembers the games that I played up loving and experiencing, and it feels morally wrong for me to agree with you, even though I know that, logically, you're not wrong. I don't know if that makes any sense. Because I'm sure that people thought that 20 years ago. People that played the SNES and NES were like, oh, our games are great, and our nostalgia is great. But technology has advanced so much. Games are more in depth. There's more creativity. There's
they put more money into them.
Stuff. Yeah, they're bigger budget. There's so much more you can do. But I would say that while I agree with you, I still think there are games from the prior decades that hold up almost as good as some of today's current games.
Of course there are some, but I'm looking at the overall games. If you take any random game out of a fucking off a shelf now, and you take any random game off a shelf and fucking 2001 or whatever.
Yeah. You have a
2004.
Yeah.
The game you're gonna take now has a way better chance of being good than the old game.
Yes, I agree. I guess I'm recency biased too, but I was just thinking of Symphony of the Night, which I just finished. I think that game still holds up exceptionally well.
There are classics that everybody should play,
and people don't.
And there are some hidden gems that people should give a chance. But if you go a lot of games, you would think, "Oh, I love that game when I was when I was young," and then you go back and play it, and you're like, "Oh my god, this does not work like I remember it used to."
Like Twisted Metal 2, which is one of my favorite games of all time. But we downloaded it and played it a couple of years ago on the PS1 Classic, and it plays like absolute dog shit. It's horrible. It's horrible. I wish I had never played it again. I would rather have just fondly remembered it for what it was and never touched it. But
and people complain that it's like, oh well, I used to pop my game in and just play it. Now I gotta update the game or whatever.
Yeah.
But if your game was broken back then, you're fucked.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
There was no way to fix a broken game or a bad game. You were stuck with that.
No, you're not wrong. At all. And I think that's definitely one of the bigger, more valid criticisms. Now, I mean, I want to disagree with you because
I know I saw it on your face.
Though, I have to be honest and just be objective. It's more so because I don't know if it's just a depression thing or what, but I hold on really a lot to nostalgia and positive memories, and I associate video games for me were such a big connector for so many of those things growing up, with friends or when I was having tough times, playing games. Games have always kind of been a buffer. So when I think back to booting up fucking a game that even nowadays probably Time Splitters 2 and playing it with my cousin and sitting at home and playing that, I'm like, nah, man, that shit was the best. But then I'm like, yeah, but is it really better than anything coming out nowadays? And the answer is no, obviously. But I also do think, like I said, that there are definitely some exceptions to that I unfortunately think, and I think Nicole's a really good example of this because she's talked about it on the show. If a game is like over like 10 years old, 20 years old, she won't play it just because it's older. She just wants to play the newer stuff. And I hate that some games
Mentality.
just using
No.
Symphony. No, I mean, I'm not saying it's a criticism on her. I think a lot of people think that way. Granted, she's only 4 years younger than me, but in general, like that generational shift where people who are like, I didn't play these things. I was born when this came out, and I had a PS1, so I didn't go back and play. The idea that like people won't play something like Symphony of the Night because, and that one's like closest in my head
20 or 25
because it's
years
20,
old.
1997, so 24-ish years old is crazy because it's still so good. Or I know the remake came out, but like Resident Evil 4, in my opinion, I mean, on our show fucking poll when we started the show, that was one we decided on the best game of all time. I mean, with our bracket, and I think it's definitely in the top 15 for sure. Resident Evil 4, like, it's 20 years old, whatever. People are like, oh, I'm not going to play it, or I don't want to play it. Like, it's still one of the best games ever made. Like, they've made these new Resident Evils, like Village and 7 or whatever, that are beautiful, visually beautiful and way more in-depth, but they're still just not better than a game that came out 20 years earlier. So there are outliers, but I mean, yeah.
You mean 20 years later?
Yeah, sorry, 20 years, yeah. My point is, Resident Evil 4 is better than almost every Resident Evil game that has come out since Resident Evil 4, and that doesn't mean the others are bad. It just means that game set a bar so high that it's been almost impossible to top.
Yes. I think everybody should give games a chance regardless of how old they are. I think if you don't, you're missing out on a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
But, I mean, I love the PS1. The PS1's one of probably my favorite console ever. But a lot of the games on the PS1 are fucking terrible. I mean, there's tons of classics and games that everybody should play. Like you said, Symphony of the Night. I mean, since we're talking about it,
Yeah,
I'll just use that one. But like, a lot of those games suck. But because people grew up with them,
Mhm.
they think they're better than the games that they have now.
That's true.
But they haven't played them in 25 years.
Ocarina of Time is one that comes to mind. And I played that for the first time in 2017, and I was like, I don't know, it was kind of boring and slow. Like, I know that's like sacrilege to say, but that's just kind of how I felt. And I know my opinion is not reflective of the gaming community's opinion as a whole, but if the game is sold to me as like the greatest thing ever and I play it and I'm like, okay, like, all right, cool, I hit this spider and wait for it to turn around. Like, I don't know, I think nostalgia works both ways, where people kind of fondly remember something because it was fun when you played it and we didn't have anything better. And then it also is like, nah, some shit can just still be fun. WarioWare, still a great game. Like, I don't know, it's not that cut and dry. And Glokage said in the comments, the Mario Party games have aged surprisingly well, aside from the shitty one on the Wii U, which I, again, agree with. 4, 5,
I think we
6,
said that.
still really fucking good games.
Six is the best one.
They are really good to this day. Yes, they don't look like as clean and nice as Mario Party Superstars, which isn't even bad, by the way. But like, I think there's a divide. It's like, oh, old stuff is bad, new stuff is bad. Like, I think just be more open to other games in general. I've been guilty of it too, because something's like older, I'm like, I don't want to get into it, I don't want to play that. I regret how long it took me to play Symphony of the Night, because that game is genuinely just a fantastic experience. And it's just, again, one example of many. But yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, that was my hot take. I mean,
Yeah. So
I guess you agreed with it. So maybe
I
it's not
do.
that bad,
I really, I'm sure some people don't. I just think it's true. I just think it's really not something that you can be super objective about, because the games look better, they play better, there's more people involved, there's more creative minds, there's these indie companies now that are really having the ability to make games. I look at a game like Cult of the Lamb, like, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, would a game like that have even been possible to be made and funded the way it was? Like, maybe, but it would have been a lot harder to do, because now you have platforms like Steam and other places where you don't need to necessarily get your game on Xbox or Microsoft or Sony, sorry, just to have it like come out and have a chance to play. The space is bigger for gaming creators, which means more people can bring their ideas to life, which means we have more choice, which means there's a greater variety of things to play. So, in the end, I think it's good. Yeah.
I agree.
That's pretty much the hot takes. It's time to finally let go with Ocarina of Time is the greatest of all time, Scrooge Champ said. No, I agree. Now people say it's Breath of the Wild, which I still think is also a hot take that's not factually accurate, but I just, the game is very open, and again, it's Nintendo, so. But yeah, we went a little over what I thought we would, but that was a lot of fun, and I really like talking about that stuff and just kind of diving deep into those things. So I super appreciate you coming on the show. I have one quick question related to a topic that you and I are a lot more familiar with, and that I discussed on the show last week. In Magic the Gathering has a Lord of the Rings set. Of course, we talked about it in the One of One ring, which is an incredibly rare serialized card that has officially been pulled and graded, as I mentioned last week. It's a Toronto retail worker who pulled it, and he's got it graded, and he's fielding offers looking to sell. What do you think the card will actually sell for when a sale happens?
I mean, it's definitely to go for 7 figures. I don't know how high. I know there were offers for $1 million, so it's gonna be more than that.
There was an offer of $1 million. There was an offer of $2.1 million for a company in Spain, where they would have had to fly out. He did say he declined that, I believe, because it was unclear whether or not it was going to be like a lump sum payment, or if they were going to give him some cash up front. And when you're in another country and you're going back and forth, it's not exactly feasible to work that out.
I was gonna say around $2 million. That was my initial thought.
Mm-hmm. So I'm with you. I think $2 million. I think it could be a little higher. I think I've seen a lot of people say once it sells, you'll likely never see it on the market again, or at least not for a very long time. The reason I asked that question is obviously card games made a massive resurgence in the public eye during the pandemic. Everything has boomed. Do you think this is going to set any kind of precedent or change precedent for those things going forward? Like a card,
one of one
card selling for an amount this high, being this in demand to the point where you have content creators and people who don't even play Magic opening Magic stuff, spending $500 on these boxes. Is this going to become a norm, or do you think it blew up the way it did because it's Lord of the Rings and it's a one?
Yeah, I don't think it would. If they just made some random ass card that isn't a license, it's not going to be crazy like it is with Lord of the Rings is absolutely massive. Both the people who love movies and people who love fantasy in general. So no, unless it was something licensed, which is impossible to predict. I don't think so.
Just interesting for thought. I've had a lot of people that I don't talk to often that know that I play Magic and do the YouTube stuff and whatnot have been like, oh, did you hear about that Magic card? Or, oh, did you pull that thing? It's definitely something that expanded beyond that sphere of card games. And it's just funny because it's literally just printed on cardstock and numbered with a 1, and yet the demand and the popularity went up like crazy. And
when the Tyler the Great Warrior sold, you had thought the Tyler was going to go for more, and I was like, there's absolutely no way because Lord of the Rings.
That's
and
true.
It seems like I'm right on that because Tyler the Great Warrior went for 200K, something like that.
I think it was around 300K. Tyler the Great Warrior was a Yu-Gi-Oh card. It was also a one of one, and it had been created through Make-A-Wish, if anyone's unfamiliar with that. That went up for auction, and I think it hit somewhere around 300K. It was high. It was low to mid 6 figures, which is still crazy money, obviously. But it did not hit anywhere near the stratosphere that the ring obviously pulled. And I just think it's really interesting because a lot of celebrities, people like Post Malone, Cassius Marsh, former NFL player, a lot of other people are into Magic and play Magic, and it's become a big thing. And so the traction that this card gained is just interesting. And I can't help but think about Disney's got their own card game coming out and stuff, and whether or not what the market for collectibles, because as everyone thinks that things are shifting to digital and all this stuff, it's this type of stuff proves that at the end of the day, there's still always going to be a demand for physical media and physical collectibles, and I think this just kind of proves that. $2 million for a card is absolutely insane, but good for the guy who sold it. I don't know. Just wanted to thought and give people an update on that. Thanks so much for stopping in and for doing the show with us tonight, and thanks to everybody who watched. This will be posted up on all streaming services and stuff tomorrow for everybody to listen, and we'll post some clips and stuff on social media so we can see who agrees and disagrees with some of the hot takes. Nicole is overseas and doing some work stuff, so best wishes to her. Hope things are going well. We'll be back next week live, same time, with another guest host or guest hosts. We might have multiple. I'm not sure yet. We're working out some stuff, but follow our social medias for details.